want to welcome you to the Career Services Employer Drive-In. Obviously, we're in a little bit different environment than we typically are. Courtney didn't tell us how lunch was going to be arranged. I've been looking for, lunch, but nothing showed up at my house today, so I guess there's no lunch. But I'm glad you're here to join us. We'll talk a little bit about engineering. I haven't changed this presentation a whole lot except to update some data and information, things like this. I think we have about an hour here, I guess, to chat. I'm hoping my part won't take nearly that long. So if you have any questions or want to chat during the middle of this, please let me know. I don't know if I can get my PowerPoint to work. There we go. So if you look at the LSU engineers, of course, I might have spelled engineers right. What did I do there? Somehow I've had that right every year, but somehow I must have messed up when I was typing. We have competitive students that are out there. And you see our students rise to the occasion no matter what it is. And I think it's that LSU engineer, if you will. I mean, you look at the PPE preparation we've had to do this spring and now in fall. One of our biological engineers worked with a faculty over in the physics area on this. She was doing a research project with it and started helping develop the PPE that we actually were able to provide to a lot of hospitals in the area. We had a group of students that were recently named as the lead Google Development Club here at LSU. We've been working to get Google to actually have more of a connection with LSU for about a few years. About 2 or 3 years ago, I guess we took some students out to Silicon Valley and started making connections with Google, and then Google has come and talked to us here, and then our students are getting involved. So I think we're trying to get that word out there about the LSU engineer and what they can do. We have a lot of tradition. We have a lot of our students that come back to LSU because their parent, their grandparent, somebody went to LSU. Here's an example of our first civil engineering CE graduate, female CE graduate, and her grandson, who now is carrying on the legacy here at LSU. We do a lot of engagement in the college engineering. We do summer camps. We do pre-engineering programs in our high schools in the area. And so we have a lot of engagement of our students and our faculty that are out there in the community interacting. And I'm even going to tell you, some of the stuff we did this summer, even though we weren't doing face-to-face. And of course, we end up with very successful alumni out there. Here's just one example of a computer science alumni that's went on to be an NBC sports analyst. People that are out there that are making a difference in the world and changing things. Now, with sports not being on, I'm not sure what he's talking about, but So what we try to do with the LSU engineer is try to build a well-rounded individual that can compete and work and be successful from day one when they hit the job market. We look for certain skills, or we try to prepare them with certain skills so that they are ready to go on day one. From being skilled communicators, we have a communication cross-curriculum program here at LSU. The LSU College Engineering produces the largest number of distinguished communicators every year, and we have since the program started about 10 or 12 years ago. We have hands-on problem solvers. Our students want to get their hands involved in what they're doing. I got a call a few years ago about a student, actually a call from Career Services, no less. A gentleman over there called me that has gone on to do other things, but he said, I don't know what you're doing with your students, but keep on doing it, because he'd gotten a call from Nissan. And my field of expertise is industrial engineering, and we had an industrial engineering student that went to work for Nissan and was looking at the chassis elements for where your radio and all that kind of stuff is in your vehicle. And they gave him a problem to solve, and he solved it. I have to tell you, industrial engineers take one EE class, but his kid solved it. So our kids are willing to get into that hands-on experience no matter what it is, even if it's outside their realm of expertise. Leadership. We have a lot of leadership programs in the college, from our Society of Peer Mentors to the Chevron Leadership Academy. Our students, kind of have the urge to be leaders and whatever they do. and of course teammates, and we do a lot of interdisciplinary type of senior design and things of that type to help build that teamwork experience and an entrepreneurial spirit. We get a lot of students to go on and actually start their own firms while they're students. I had one student one year that came in and talked to a group of our freshmen. He was a double E student and also a computer engineering student. He started 4 companies while I was here at LSU. Now I'll tell you, 3 of them failed, but the 4th one is running strong. And just a few years ago, he doubled the size of the company. And then our students obviously have a keen understanding of what national and global issues going on in the world. And so how does that affect them? How does it affect the world, and what can they contribute to it? Just little key facts about the college. We're the 26th largest college of engineering in the country. That doesn't mean anything unless you put it in perspective. There's about 350 colleges of engineering in the U.S. So, if we were a football team, I guess we'd be in the top 25 or 26, which is actually a pretty good place to be at the end of the season. So in the state, we graduate over 51% of the engineers in the state. So we are the largest producer of engineers in the state of Louisiana. And of course, we have 11 different disciplines. Some other facts you may not know about. We, in the last report out of the American Society of Engineering Education, we were ranked number 11 in the number of African-American engineering graduates. And once again, that's 11 out of 350 colleges of engineering. 26 for the number of engineering degrees awarded. I've already told you about the size, the enrollment size. We were 28th in the country for chemical engineering graduates, which happens to be, kind of one of our more premier programs, if you will. And we were 37th in the country for women engineering graduates. So, while we have more work to do in these areas, I think we can be pretty proud of at least the accomplishments we've made in that area. And if you look at disciplines out there, I'm just going to flip through some of these slides, and unless you kind of stop me, I'm not going to spend a lot of time just belaboring the numbers. I'll share this slides with Courtney, and she can send them on to you. But this is kind of the distribution of our engineering majors out there. I've just kind of highlighted in red kind of the larger programs out there in terms of percentage of students. We get obviously a lot of students go into mechanical engineering. A lot of students that they don't know anything else, they at least know mechanical engineering, they go into that. Construction management being our second, and chemical being our 3rd largest out there. And of course, we have every other discipline a student can want. Our college, with students within the college engineering, because freshmen when they come to LSU are not actually in the college engineering to begin with. They're in what they call undergraduate freshman year college. We have in the college about a little over 3,700 students. If you combine our freshmen, we're somewhere around 5,400 students, 5,200, I should say, students. So we're actually a fairly large set of students out there for you to draw from. Now you look at our diversity. First, start with our females. You can see that that line here is going up over time. So the number of females that are coming in engineering and they're graduating has gone up every year since 2008. We track that. Would I like that number to be larger? Yes, but at least it's going in the right direction. Our enrollment in freshman year, about 20% this past fall. That number is actually larger this coming fall, but it's not an official number yet. And then the number of females that we award degrees to is also going up. And you can see we started back in 2008 with about 14%. Now we're up to 21%. Once again, not where we want to be, but we're heading in the right direction. Female undergraduate profile, here's your makeup. Biological and environmental probably make up the largest percentage of female students out there. Chemical being next in line, and industrial next in line in terms of where do we find our females in our different programs. But you can see in all of our programs, we have a pretty large pre-representation percentage of females in the majors. And the longer I do this business, the more I find more female students that are willing to that are headed toward engineering. I think some of our programs out in our high schools and our middle schools that we participate in open up that door for a lot of our female students that may not have considered engineering as a discipline. In the old days, probably when I was a student, the only way a woman probably went into engineering is because she had a father or a relative or somebody who was an engineer who kind of, encouraged her along, and then she went into engineering. Um, but nowadays we have lots of other programs out there. Our pre-engineering program, we touch somewhere about 1,000 students every year, and so we're able to kind of help change some of that direction. So hopefully we'll see the numbers continue to go up. In terms of our underrepresented minority population, we're about 16% of the college engineering students are underrepresented minorities. That includes our African American, Native Americans, and Hispanics, and 2 or more races as a group that is included in there. And then you can also see our underrepresented minorities for freshmen, which is UCFY, has also gone up. Both those numbers are going up every year. And like, if I look at this coming year, depending on who, what students, when the numbers are official, I think you're going to see this year is going to be even larger in terms of our underrepresented minority population. Is going to be growing again this coming year, and that's a good thing for college engineering and for the U.S. for that matter. And we look at our underrepresented population across the different disciplines. You can look at percentages. Once again, you get pretty good representation almost across every discipline out there. Biological, computer engineering, computer science, and electrical kind of stand out a little bit more than the others. But we have a lot of students that are out there in those disciplines. We find a lot of companies that are obviously trying to recruit underrepresented minority programs. We have our students. We have National Society of Black Engineers. We have the Society of Hispanic Engineers. Those are 2 prominent groups in our college, and companies can make connections with those groups if they're trying to attract those types of student populations, obviously, into their companies. And I see more and more of that, obviously, every year, where companies are specifically trying to attract these students, and you have a good group of students out there to work for. In terms of our minority undergraduate profile, here you are in terms of this past year, 2018-19, we had 137 degrees that were awarded out there, and you can see based on different demographic profiles, kind of how the numbers are doing. It seems like I'm always amazed when I look at this chart, because it's always up and down, and it's kind of all over the place. Sometimes it's never in a linear fashion by any stretch. But we do continue to recruit that population. If I look at our pre-engineering program, last estimates I had, somewhere between 67 and 70% of our population in our pre-engineering programs in our high schools out there are African American students. So we're doing things that we hope will grow the numbers of students coming to LSU from diverse backgrounds. So how do companies engage with LSU? A lot of ways you can engage with LSU. We typically every summer have employer engagement opportunities with our what used to be Engineering Encounter, now is Go Engineering. Obviously this year with the COVID, we're not obviously doing that, though we're having some industry come and talk to our students, at least virtually, in forms of that, in forms like this. This program, Go Engineering, will be online for our students this year to try to reduce. We have somewhere about 280 students are going to be participating in it. This is right before school starts. So to maintain separation, we're going to do it virtually, and it also allowed us to get more students that we could support with our Go Engineering. This program is intended as a bridge camp for students that are coming into LSU, that are leaving high school and coming to college, and is to give them an introduction into engineering projects, meet faculty, meet industry, and things like type. So it's a way for industry to get involved and to start making some connections with students. We also have summer camps. So we have REHAMS and Excite. Excite is focused on our female population, and REHAMS is our underrepresented minority population. You know, I challenged my staff this year with COVID. You know, we were talking back in March when all this started, basically, and my staff were like, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this online or whatever. And I said, well, let's try it. Let's give it the college try and let's see if we can do it. I said, if we get one student that signs up, you know, maybe we don't do it. If we get 5 students, we'll probably run. Well, we ended up having 50 students combined between REHAMS and our Excite camp this summer. And they just went off here in the last couple of weeks. Very successful program, even in an online mode. Our students and our parents were giving us very good feedback of how the program went. We envision we might actually, even if when COVID's gone, we may still keep online programs in addition to our face-to-face programs for summer camp. But once again, companies can get involved and participate in these camps. So we go and see places where companies are and see what they do when we do these camps in person. The summer is obviously different, but like for example, we've gone to Marathon down in Garyville for students to see what is a petroleum a chemical plant about, and our Go Engineering the same way kind of thing. And then also you can get involved in terms of scholarships, awarding student scholarships. We have a lot of our employers that provide student scholarships, and they use that as a means also to build a relationship with the student population. So we set up programs so that companies can build that relationship with the students, so that you're not just recruiting them when they're seniors, you're actually starting when they're freshmen and working all the way through to their seniors. It's a different generation today. When I was a student, employers showed up at graduation, interviewed them, gave jobs, and everybody was happy kind of thing. Nowadays, students want to develop that relationship with companies. And so they want that relationship early on. I have a very well-known, nationally recognized company that has recruited here for many years. We love the company, but they were having problems recruiting students. And they couldn't understand why their competitors were able to get students, but they couldn't get students. And they didn't really understand that it's building that relationship. Their competitors had scholarships and were working with the students from the time they were freshmen through their seniors. And all they were doing was showing up when, career day and trying to get seniors at the end of it. Well, these students didn't know who they were. This is a well-named company. I'm not going to tell you who the company was, but you would recognize them. This is not somebody who's not unknown, but they couldn't understand that. And so what I have to emphasize to employers, it's about developing relationships nowadays with students as opposed to just showing up on career day. So what can you do? There are a lot of things you can do. We have our engineering residential college. You could do a workshop or an event in there. There's about 350 students in there that are freshmen. We have an intro to engineering class. You could work with a student org. You could sponsor some events with some of our signature events we have. We have a program for our freshmen, Engineering Tiger Connections. We have WISE, which is a program focused at our female engineers. We have First Impressions, and that program is going to be changing here soon, but it's focused at our African American males, and then we also and ship males as well. You could get involved with a department and their curriculum and things of that type. You could be a mentor. We're actually starting this year. We've had it going on for many years now. I say many, probably about 5 years now. Chevron Leadership Academy, which has mentors with Chevron companies, employees, but we're actually going to be doing that same type of thing for a larger group, heavily focused at our underrepresented minority population, and students who may not be as well prepared to enter into the engineering college. And so if you want to be involved in mentorship, there's an opportunity there for you. We even have an opportunity where you can help faculty build case studies that could be used in the classroom. So what's my walk away message? I think I've kind of done this fairly quickly, so I think we'll be able to do some questions and stuff. Is we have a very talented pool of students in engineering, computer science, construction management. You're looking at a guy that went to Georgia Tech and went to Purdue. And if you look at rankings of engineering colleges, you'll find those in the top within my discipline. But I will put our students against any of those students out there today. And I think a little bit what you find about our students today at LSU that differentiates them from other students, and I've heard this it's not just my own perception, but I've heard it from students, is they have a stronger work ethic than other schools. I had a young lady that was working with me. She helped me write a book chapter as an undergraduate, and she got picked up for a leadership program with a company. And then finally she's now working at BASF, but she came to my class a few years ago and was talking to the class, and we went out to lunch, and we were talking about what she was doing and all. And I said, so when you're in that leadership training program, I said, I assume this company recruited, the best of the best. She said, oh yeah, we had students from Texas A&M and Purdue and Georgia Tech and Texas and, all the top schools, if you will. I said, well, how did you compete? She said, well, actually, I did better. She said, most of those other schools almost had an elitist attitude. And so she felt that LSU actually prepared her better than what these other students were doing. So a strong work ethic, and as any company knows, that's something you can't train into an employee. That's something that they really come with out of the gates, if you will. We involve our industry in a lot of industry engagement. And then I think, one of the things that companies have to be aware of, companies with their products always talk about aware of the market. Well, when you're recruiting students, you need to know what your competition is offering students. And I'm going to give you a story, and I'll wrap this up with this. There's a major company. This is about 6 years ago, that was recruiting some of our industrial engineering students. They came in and they talked to me about recruiting their students, and they told me what salary they would be offering them. I said, well, you're probably not going to have a lot of luck. They said, why? And I said, well, because you're somewhere between 10 and 15,000 below what everybody else is offering. And our students are able to get those jobs, so why would they work for you? So that was kind of the first thing. They weren't aware of what the market, if you will, played for our students. The second thing they did that went wrong was they said, well, we'd still like to recruit some for internships, and then I'll be working with them on salaries and things like that. So I said, okay. Well, they waited till almost the last minute before summer to try to do that. We had several students that interviewed with them, but it was, they probably interviewed them in late April, but they didn't get back to them until June. Well, most of those students went on had other internship opportunities. So they went to those opportunities. So by the time they were actually offering the job, it was way too late. And then secondly, there was one student that actually drove up to the company. The company did all their interviews virtually, but the student actually said, I want to do a face-to-face. So he drove up to their location in Dallas, met with them face-to-face. They didn't offer him a job. And the problem is today we live in a world where we have these types of things. And in a matter of seconds, your reputation can go from being very good to being very bad among our student population. Well, because of that experience, their reputation about hiring our students was very bad. As it turned out, they got none of our students to work for them that summer. Well, they came back the next fall, and we sat down at a little pizza joint. We were talking about it, and they said, we'd like to come back and recruit. I said, okay. And I said, so what are you going to do different than what you did last year? Because what you did last year really kind of set a bad reputation for you as a company. And we talked through some things they could do differently. We did those. They interviewed students, they hired a bunch of students, they went away for their internships. That whole summer, I was dreading those students coming back. But they offered 5 students. One of those students was the student that they turned down the first time around. Well, he turned them down and went to another company. But 3 of the 5 students took jobs with them that summer. They went to work for them, came back, and actually all 3 of them, I don't know what the deal was, but all 3 came to my office at the same time. And I was like, okay, what are they going to tell me that went wrong? And I said, so how'd it go? And their answer was, it went great. We loved it. The company treated us well. We got to learn a lot. I mean, they were just like very over the top of this company. So guess what? The next year when they tried to recruit, no problem finding anybody because their reputation went back up. So you got to kind of pay attention to how you're being viewed by the student population. You know, there can be a happy ending, but I see companies do this all the time that aren't aware of the market, if you will. When I say the market, the student market, whether it be at LSU or other places, and so that kind of harms them in the approach they take. So here we are. We've got a good population. That's what we look for. Is we want graduates at the end out of our student mix. So I'll end there and I'll answer any questions you might have. As I tell my students, not all at once, okay?
Dr. Harvey, we have a question from Brooke. What
Okay.
is the best way to engage with faculty to get into classrooms for the fall?
So in every one of our programs, we have undergraduate advisors that can help work with you to try to get you into classrooms. Now, I will tell you that there are some faculty who are not very energetic or excited about having somebody come take away their classroom time, and then there's others that that are very energetic and want industry to come in and talk to their students. So what I do is I encourage you to work with first of all, you can always reach out to me and I can make those connections. And then secondly, I will connect you with undergraduate advisors because they'll kind of have a better lay of the land of knowing, which faculty you might go get into their classroom and which ones that might not be as open to it, if you will. And so we can work those types of things with any type of company. Most of our faculty are out there open to people coming in to their classrooms and talking. So when I say there's some that aren't, that's probably a small portion, but at least you should know that. And so that's why we work with those undergraduate advisors to make sure we get them into the right class. And depending on what you want to talk to, right? If you want to talk to seniors, you want to talk to juniors, who's the audience you're trying to get to, kind of thing.
Awesome. And then we have, are engineers getting finance or business intro courses yet, specifically industrial engineers?
So in our industrial engineering program, I'm gonna shut that down. Our industrial engineering program, there are 2 avenues which students can get that kind of knowledge. So first of all, they take engineering economics, which is basically finance 101. If you went to a business school and looked at their finance course and looked at engineering economics, they're effectively the same course. I think the finance people in their intro finance class get a little bit more into, world economics and things of that type content. So at least they get that course. But our IE program only requires 120 hours to graduate. And so I won't say most, but a lot of our students in industrial engineering go and do the business minor, which means they take some business management courses, a marketing class, finance class, those types of courses that are out there. That's one way of your undergraduate to get those kind of business foundations, if you will, or some of those business courses into their curriculum. And then some go and get a finance minor and things like this. We have a few students every year to go do that. The other way for our IEs is they actually have opportunity to go get an MBA en route while they're doing their undergraduate degree. So in 5 years, they can effectively get an IE undergraduate and the MBA together when they graduate. So that might be a student, if you're looking for business knowledge, that also may be a student population you want to look at. And we probably have, I don't know, when we started it, I probably had 1 student a year, and now I went up to 3, and then I got up to 5. I don't know what they had this last year, but somewhere, I'd say it's probably between 5 and 7 students to go and do that on a year basis. A lot of them, one year I recruited, I don't know, I used to be on the road doing a lot of student recruitment, and I probably recruited 10 to 15 young women, and probably half of those were going to go do an MBA. And and then I think only 1 went and got the MBA, and the reason was because they had opportunities to go with other places where their MBA would get paid for them by them. So they chose just not to do that. So, but those are 2 avenues to get that business. Long answer to your short question. So, what else?
Awesome. Yuki is asking about the engineering networking reception. This semester, I think we're not having the networking reception specifically because we're splitting the expos up a little bit. So the STEM Expo is going to be September 15th, and that's just going to be the 1 day for STEM students. And then a week later, we'll have our business, government, and nonprofit expo.
Yeah, I think this year, obviously, COVID's kind of threw a wrench in the oil, if you will. But I hope by next fall we'll be back to doing those types of, or maybe by the spring even potentially doing some of those type of networking events. We look forward to those. I think companies like them and students like them. So.
Does anybody else have any questions? Who is the contact for getting involved in the Go Engineering Industry Lunch, first impressions, etc.?
So it depends on which one. So Go Engineering is Adrian Steele is the one who's running that this year, and typically runs it every year basically. So she's the contact point person for that. For our first impressions, we have we're actually not going to have that program this year, and the reason is because we actually met with some of our African American student leaders that asked us to rethink that program. They thought it had, if you will, outlived its utility, and they wanted for us to focus on some other things. And so we're actually going to spend this year working with that student group to actually design a program that they would like to have. And in line with that, we're actually this fall we'll have a program for Black women in STEM, where we try to hopefully provide opportunities for our Black women in engineering to, I should say Black women in engineering, it's not actually STEM, it's engineering only, but that they can have contact points with people in industry that are like themselves so that they can get some mentorship and things like that. So we are doing that, but I expect we'll be revising the First Impressions program this year, like I said, with the student leaders.
Are classroom talks or other organization-based events such as AITP happening this semester?
So the student orgs probably will still do some of those types of things. I think you're going to see a lot less of that. If it will, probably be virtual. This year, you know, I don't know if you know, probably if you paid attention, but basically we have 3 formats of teaching going on this fall. We're doing face-to-face for typically more smaller classes. We're doing what we call a hybrid environment, where you got an easy way of thinking this is half your class is in face-to-face, another half is online, and then they flip places the next class kind of thing. And then we have students that are also in online classes. We're trying to obviously reduce the amount of interaction of students to reduce the spread of this virus that we're faced with. And so I think you're going to see a lot. I think student groups will still be doing things, They just probably won't be as robust as they typically are because of the virus. So what I would encourage you to do if you're interested in getting involved in those student groups is to reach out to the student group or the department that actually hosts that student group to see what they're actually doing. I haven't seen any plans for most of the student groups. The student groups that fall under me are NESB and SHIP and SWE, Society of Women Engineers, and those groups plan to still do some events. They will be doing some things. They'll be having some guest speakers and things like that. But I just know it won't be, like I said, as robust as it typically is.
And how can we get into the freshman intro class?
You just let me know, and I'll hook you up with Dr. Champney, who is the instructor for that course, and I'm sure he would love for you to be able to come and talk to his class. He's going to, his intention is actually, that course is actually being done online. So he's kind of mixing it up, if you will. Some of it will be kind of real time online, and some of it might be more asynchronous online. But you can definitely work with him to get involved in that. He would welcome that. But if you want to read in general, if you do reach out to me, then I can make the connection for you.
And what virtual platforms are most of these classes using if we were to do class talks or virtual visits?
Two. There's basically two platforms that they're using. I'd probably be willing to say 80 to 90% of them are using Zoom. So like we're doing right now. Some of them are using Teams, Microsoft Teams. So those are really kind of the two platforms that you're seeing being used across the university. Anything else I can help you with? So are you coming, what's the market like out there for hiring? I'll ask my question.
Hey, Dr. Harvey, it's Camille from GE Healthcare. Can you hear me?
Hey, Camille, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I would say to answer your question, I would say our hiring is back to where it needs to be. The only thing that we did have to adjust for is we did skip out on a summer of internships. But other than that, we are going to make up for the loss of doing, I think, for COP classes, we're going to be doing around 20 students instead of 15. And then things will start to even back out, and we'll be having, 15 people every year come into the program.
Cool.
So
based on what I've seen with this virus, healthcare needs a lot of people.
Oh yeah, we've stayed super busy. It's been weird adjusting, but it's been a crazy time.
I see Kenya saying that their hiring plans aren't changing. That's good.
This is Stacy from Air Products, and we continued with our summer internship program this summer and are hiring. We're geared up to hire for next year, so we're excited about the fall.
Good, good.
Looks like International Paper is still recruiting. Oh, I'm sorry, Leah?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
okay.
I can now. Go ahead.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, just give you an update for us. Oil and gas got hit pretty hard. Unfortunately, we had to actually cancel our internships. And so for this summer. So we are still in the process of trying to figure out what those numbers look like. More than likely, it will be less than what we've done in the past. And I think a lot of that does have a lot to do with new technologies that we have coming out into the field operations side of the business that's going to change the role of how a field engineer works compared to how it's been done in the past. a lot more opportunity to do the job remotely versus always having to be on site. So we're still trying to get those details, as it could certainly change the profile of the type of candidate that we're looking for.
Well, good. And for the rest of the companies in the room, if you want to talk to a company about how to engage students, talk to Leah. She knows how to do it, and her company does it very well.
And International Paper is reporting that they're still recruiting co-ops, interns, and full-time hires for their REACH program. No changes due to COVID.
Good. I like hearing this. I know our students will too.
Yeah.
So. Any other questions you may have?
Hey, Dr. Harvey, Courtney Edwards, thank you so much for joining us. I know our employers always appreciate having you here. And just to give you a very quick update, the STEM Expo, as many of you know, is about a month away, September 15th, so a month and a few days. And as of right now, we've already got 50 companies registered to attend, which I think is a great thing, right? I mean, in this environment where we're not really sure, and to get this feedback about who might still be hiring, even at reduced numbers, to know that we'll have at least 50, and it climbs every single day. So we're super excited to watch that grow over the next month. But that's just a quick update on the pulse of what's going on with the Fall STEM Expo only.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, our students are eager to go to work. I mean, I don't think the virus has affected their ability or desire to go to work by any stretch of the imagination. So I think you have an opportunity to recruit some of the best and the brightest, if you will.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, thank you so much. I know we're at the end of our time. And Courtney Frost, thank you for moderating. You've done an amazing job fielding the chat. Dr. Harvey, as always, thank you for your partnership with our office.